So what I want to have a brief meeting discussion on is every 5 years, we have to go out to bid RFP for an auditor for the school district. We work in conjunction with Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. And what they do is they send out all the information about our school. We send that to them. They send out all the information to auditors on their list or anybody who is interested. They then put together the costs, the specs, and how much they're going to charge for those audits. There's a whole bunch of other information that they send to us. Once Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES compiles all the required information, such as insurance documents, things like that. So it's not just a who's the most expensive or who's the least expensive document. Some people will forget things and they'll get 0 points on a spreadsheet. Other people will have them. So it's like out of 2 points, they get 2 points because they've included them. So when you take a look at an analysis of that, then they send everything into Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES gathers everything for the school districts. Once they have everything, then they send it out to the school districts. We are very fortunate to have a good relationship with Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES because they do the bid process also. So they put together a big old sheet, I guess is the best way to put it, that Jeff and I go through and take a look at, do they have all the required documentation they need? What's the cost for the Newark School District for this? What's the cost, for the internal audit, the external audit, and those type things. Then we compile those numbers up, get a bottom number to see who comes out on top, who comes out second, those type things. This year we had 4 groups: Bonadia, Freed Maxit, Mengel Metzger Bar, MMB, which is Ray Wager's subsidiary, and it's an abbreviation of 4 letters. Jeff, what is it?
Eldridge, Fox, Peretti, and Rowenberg.
There you go.
EFPR.
EFPR. All right, so those are the ones that sent them in. So Jeff has been working hard to go through those, gather that up, take a look at it. And we have what we put together as our results. Okay. So for the external audit, that was Mengel Metzger Bar's company that we had there. And the internal audit and risk assessment was Freed Maxit. So I didn't know what you wanted to converse about after that, or if there's anything you needed to see from that.
Can we look at the external audit first page, please? I have it on my screen. I don't know if you guys have it on yours.
Jeff's gonna
Yep.
put it. Jeff,
So Ed and Jeff, here's one question.
sure. Can you share your screen, Jeff, or no? I don't know if we need to do that or not. Well, what question do you have, Russ? And then we'll go from there.
The question is, proposals received will be evaluated by the audit committee based on the following. And there's criteria, required forms, and RFP format. All the wording that I see on this document, that came from BOCES. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what Jeff did was applied, there was a possible 2 points for the first category, title page. And what he did was say, okay, all the title pages looked appropriate. He had no comments, and he put 2 points across the board.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the next one, he did the same thing.
Yes.
Okay.
If they provided, I gave them the full credit.
Okay. So we did not put together the format of this document. This all came from BOCES. Okay, so that's news to me.
Yep.
And then did Jeff do all of this himself in with all of his intelligence and splendor, or did you assist him or check him or collaborate with him? How is that done?
You want to go first with it, Jeff, or do you want me to?
Sure. So BOCES completed a lot of it, and I went through and I looked at it from my point of view, I guess I would say, and a lot of it I remained the same. Some of it I updated. I saw some spots that were I had to update like costs and trying to think there are some other ones that they missed that they didn't get, which I updated.
Mhm.
But overall, most of not a lot of it was there
Okay.
because they'd gone through it.
Okay.
So both,
For,
yep, both these-
let me ask my question, please.
yep, sorry.
For instance, under insurance in that first group of categories. Okay.
Yep.
And the points are 2. Bonadeo got 2. EFPR got 2. But Feed Maxic got 1, and MMB got 1. Now, did you assign that 1, or did BOCES assign that 1, Jeff?
BOCES assigned that 1, but I looked. We had requested additional insurance. It was missing. It was a missing document. So I went through. I looked at it. I did not see it either. So to me, that confirmed their score of 1.
Okay, so you confirmed that score. That was a flag to you when you saw it.
Yes.
Okay, and then you went through this whole document doing exactly that.
Yes.
Okay, and in the end, and I got to go all the way down the end of this thing. Feed Maxic got 90 points. MMB got 91, and those were the 2 highest.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and if I'm looking at the expenses correctly, Feed Maxic was less expensive by $8,000 than MMB. Is that correct?
For total Feed Maxic.
Total
No, it's
for all
more-
5 years is 112 versus 120.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we chose which of these, Feed Maxic or MMB?
So in this case, we chose MMB, but when it came to price, we reduced their scoring in comparison to Feed Maxic. We scored Feed Maxic with the highest possible points when it came to pricing. And we reduced MMB's score to a 13 because they were higher. So when evaluating these 4 auditors,
Mm-hmm.
I assigned price based on the lowest one would receive the highest points.
Okay.
And then the next one, I reduced their points when it came to cost.
Okay. Because I'm just, I'm just an average person out here, and I look at this chart and I see $112,000, which I believe is the total cost, and I see 2 firms that are very close together, and in fact, the lower cost has Feed Maxic. It not only has the lower dollars, but it has a lower score than MMB. So I figure somebody made a decision here for Feed Maxic. No.
Yep.
So I'm confused. So help me out, please.
So
That's okay. Go ahead. Ed.
I was just going to say, so when you do an RFP, you're asked to provide certain pieces of information, and all of those things have a weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't base it just upon the weight. You also have to base upon everything else. So part of the thing you're looking at is if you're asked for something and you're looking for an auditor, you want to make sure your auditor is thorough in their RFP proposals to submit stuff. So you don't want to take a look just at the cost. So in the column here, the Feed Maxic amount, which is the least amount, got the most points because it was the least amount. So they got 15 points for that. Okay. That's the most points they could get in that category because they were the highest, they were the lowest score.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the highest number of points for price.
Okay.
So when you
My point, Ed, is that I understand what you just said.
Yep.
But I'm looking at the 90 at the bottom. Total points.
Yep.
Versus the 91 for MMB.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the 90 to me means that Jeff in his good office and you and yours have rated Feed Maxic 1 point less, as close as you can get to MMB.
Yep.
But it's still a lower score.
Yes.
But Feed Maxic is cheaper. So
yes.
How do we, in a bid process, we would say, yeah, we're taking somebody that didn't rate as highly because even though they were cheaper, there was another reason why we,
Sure.
see what I mean?
Yeah, let's take a look at row 68.
Okay,
Okay, just right above that, so you don't have to scroll
yeah,
up too high.
I got it.
Okay, so if you want to do Freed Max, it got 2 points on there because they provided a sample. MMB got 0 points because they didn't provide a sample.
Okay,
So it could have been 2 points higher if they sent a sample over.
Yeah.
That would have made it 93 to 90.
okay.
So
But you see where my little argument is going here? That
you're looking at the bottom dollar amount.
yes,
Yep. So let me look at not just one. Let's look at the whole big picture for auditors. Okay.
Mhm.
So on this one, it came down to 2. That's what we're arguing over, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not arguing. I'm asking.
Yep. So that's what we're discussing. I guess that's
Okay.
what we're saying. Good way to put it. Thank you. We're not arguing because we're not. We're just having a good discussion. And the more you know, the better it is. Let's just take a look at the other tab before we go too far down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
We take a look the top 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Freed Max at MMB, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So here's where my mind goes. You cannot have the same internal auditor and external auditor.
Okay.
So you have to have 2 different companies.
Okay.
Okay. So as we go through those things, I have a difference of cost here where Freed Max is again the lower cost, but I can't have MMB. So that's where I'm going to recoup that from there with my 80, the point spread. So that'll be my second choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I were to pick Freed Max it on this one, then I'd have to use MMB as my internal auditor. So you can't have the same company do both. You have to have 2 separate ones.
Yeah. Okay. But if we did the reverse, I'm just looking at the numbers.
Mhm.
If we did the reverse, if we picked for the external auditor, if we had picked MMB, and for internal and RA, we had picked Freed Maxic, we would have spent less money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So how do we justify that? How do we justify spending more money when these guys are so close in the way they're rating?
And that's what the rest of the form compiles for us.
Okay.
So on line 68, MMB is a 0, Freed Max it is a 2. Hourly rates, everybody got 2s for because they're all, fairly comparison once you get off a lot of the principles and those type things. Usually the principal ones only come out on an as needed basis. They usually send a lot of staff up that are underneath them. Cost proposals, everybody had that. So in that category right there, we're looking at a difference of 13 and 18 between Freed Maxic and MMB. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one category. Then when we also take a look in the next category, the proposal, for the section on references. Okay. Notice every 13, 2s and 1s because they provided it or didn't provide it. Okay. So what we do is we tally up all these points.
Okay.
So I guess if you wanted us to just look at total cost, that would make our life so much easier. But the comptroller wants you to take a look at the whole big picture when you do an RFP.
Ed, I think you did a wonderful job on this. I commend you and Jeff.
Yeah.
It's complicated. It appears to be very thorough. What I'm looking for is my answer, should I get asked, and God knows I won't, or your answer if you get asked, is why we chose this combination of auditors, which actually cost us a little bit more money if we had switched them the other way.
Yeah.
And the points when you go to the internal and
Mhm.
whatever RA is at the moment, you look at the score there and you say, well, there's no doubt MMB is our guys and gals, because they blow everybody else away. It's when you look at the other one, that the questions arise. You see what I'm saying?
It still
Yep.
goes down to lowest responsible bidder, and we can justify either one in either category. And because the fact is we have to take one for one and one for the other,
Yes.
it kind of comes down to that. It's like, okay, we want this one for this side and this one for that side.
So which one do we want for which side? What is your recommendation, Jeff? And are you recommending one or the other?
My recommendation would be based upon the scores. I would do the external for Metzko Bar, the internal for Freed Maxit. That's the layout would be the same companies that we currently have for those. Okay. The external audit, I'm just trying to take a look at some of these things here. I'd have to go back in and take a look to see what their sample looks like to do a in-depth comparison of that very quickly if you wanted to compare it to a MMB. Because there are ones, we have their samples already in our files, so that's easy. So, I mean, if you want, I can go back in there and just to see if one's more detailed, if that switches scores, if you would like.
I think the experience we have with these has to weigh something as well, does it not?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So have we used both Freed, Maxic, and MMB before?
Yep, there are our current ones, and this is the second RFP that we've had go out through BOCES since I've been here. When I came in, that's the ones that we've had prior to then. I don't know how they were selected then. It could have been the same process. I don't know. But since I've been here, we've worked with Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES and have used what they provided.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. We are choosing based on this matrix. We are choosing MMB for the internal and RA, or am I wrong?
MMB would be for the external.
Okay.
That's where I'm confused too, John. So you got if this matrix is supposed to be an evaluation for both companies, you got a much bigger point spread for MME versus Freed Macics on the internal side.
Yeah, but the dollars are a big difference as well. That's
Right. So if you go with MMB for the internal and then the Freed Macics for the external, then you got the cheaper one there. But when they both are pretty much neck and neck, I guess am I having the same problem that you are, John?
Yes.
Right. So I guess looking at cost wise, I'm only going to look at cost. Okay. So we know the other two groups are out.
Yeah.
Freed Maxit costs 30 for the internal. MMB costs 57
Yes.
for the internal. Okay. So if we do Freed Maxit internal, we save approximately $27,000.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a savings there. If we do external, okay, with my external auditors, if I pick Freed Maxit, I save $8,000 versus MMB. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Okay. So
But you would have to take MMB if you'd already chosen Freed Maxic
correct.
and the other one. So you'd really spend $8,000 more. So the difference is what, $19,000?
Right. So if I'm looking at there, picking MMB is going to cost me $8,000 more for an external audit. But if I go with the internal audit, I save $27,000 using MMB.
Yes.
Okay, so
No, you save 27 using Freed Maxic.
okay, using Freed Maxit. I'm looking at it backwards.
On the internal, yeah, it does get confusing.
Yeah. Switching it back and forth. Okay.
And Ed, all I'm looking at, and Jeff, all I'm looking for is that we have justification for what we're doing. That somebody can do the same thing that we just did and say, wait a minute, we could have saved $17,000 if we turn these numbers, if we had made different choices. And the compelling reason for doing what we did is that MMB scored 93 in the internal and Freed Maxic scored 85. And that's a big difference.
Yes.
So we want the better firm doing our audit. And because we chose MMB, the only choice we have for the other one that fits the criteria is Reed Maxick.
Correct.
That's the way my brain's working.
Yes.
Yep. Is the other
Jeff,
two.
I see Jeff nodding his head, so this is good.
Right. So Freed Maxit currently only does our internal. They do the internal risk assessment audit. So that's one audit that we meet on.
Mhm.
Mengo Metzger Bar does the basic financials, extra classroom, federal funds, and all those other ones. So that's what I mean. If the decision is to reassess this, to take a look, I would have to take a look at the sample provided for the external audit from Freed Maxit in case there's something different in there that we like. That can help substantiate why the committee is recommending MMB. I'm fine with that. That can help support, for the external audit if we like the layout of MMB's audit better than Freed Maxit. Every auditor has a little different layouts.
Russ, what do you think?
I think that, the actual people that come in and do the sample testing and all that sort of stuff are people who are doing things basically by a script and how they were trained. So it doesn't matter what company you use, the data gathering is all the same. What you get to is the personalities that you're dealing with and the how they compile it together, and the extra little help they're going to give you when the treasurer calls them up and says, "Hey, I got a problem I got to deal with," and knowing those people in the offices is very important because. Jeff, how many times do you have to call the auditors to get a question answered?
A lot, frequently.
Yeah.
Very frequently between even the treasurers and those type things that go there. And that's what I mean. I'm just looking here. I can't remember what Freed Maxit does with that. If they charge, I would have to double check into their RFP. But I know with Mengo Metzger Bar, whenever you call them or email them, there is no charge.
Yeah. So, and I've at Wayne, I've had a lot of dealings with Eldridge Fox, EFPR group. They're basically the same. It's a set of people that you're dealing with. So you're buying the people who are going to do sort of a rote thing, and it's how much help they're going to give you. I've got to go do my audit thing with them on Thursday because I'm claims auditor for Wayne. And, I'll get all my questions asked for free, on different auditing things like dealing with booster clubs and stuff like that.
And we've dealt with Freed Maxick before, yes?
Yes, correct. Freed Maxit is our current internal and risk assessment auditor. They're the one that we meet just one time a year. It's Catherine Barrett is who we've usually spoken with. The other group, Mengo Metzger Bar, is Tom Zuber, Melissa Dewar, and her team. So we usually meet a couple times with them because they do the financial, the federal funds, the extra classroom, that type of thing.
Okay.
We have a track record with both is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, but both are great. I can't think of anything horrible to say about any of the four that are on here. Russ works with EFPR and, in his conversation sounds good. I just don't know that many people that work with Bonadio either. So I just have not. I'm open to anything.
I didn't see it. There isn't a thing on how many districts each one of them does, is there?
They usually have a list of the districts in their proposal somewheres. Usually they include it with a reference list, so I can pull that out and see.
Because I haven't heard of many that use Bonadito either. In fact, I didn't hear about them until last year.
I think, the last time, I think they were on our last RFP also. And I think at that time there were very few schools. I don't know if they're just moving into this area versus, closer to Monroe County. I don't know.
And I know MMB has been doing this since Hector was a pup or whatever. And Freed Maxick is one of the older ones also. But MNB is, they've been around for 30, 40 years.
And they purchased Ray Wager's office. So it's Ray Wager, a subsidiary of MMB, if my memory is correct on that. So.
Yep.
And so just one last time, who's doing our internal and external right now?
Okay, currently right now, our internal is Freed Maxick. Okay, that's the internal audit and risk assessment. They do that as one. And then the external audit is Mengel Mensker Bar.
So we're going to switch them for next year based on this.
This year would keep them the same. So the external one is the first one that would have Mengel Mensker Bar with 1 point difference. And then the internal would then default to, you would have to pick your second choice, which would be Freed Maxick, is how it's written here.
Okay. I'm all right.
Okay. I mean, we can do some digging if you want us to take a look at something else. Like I said, if there's, like I said, I don't know Freed Maxick. If I have questions on that, if there's calls in billing, you know, like MMB, I'm just looking at the bottom line here, how the other one's close enough, I can't remember. So it goes from the 1980s, so that wouldn't be worth looking into any farther. But I could take a look at the other ones also to see for cost for EFPR and Freed Maxick for the next two.
I think one of the big things is the ongoing relationship, and it's not our relationship. It's the people in the district office that have to call them when there's a problem and get you know, when they introduce something on the software or something like that, they have to call the auditors to say, okay, how do you want us to do this? Because the software is making us do it this way, but I thought we had to do it this way. So they will help arbitrate any software issues with BOCES and stuff like that. And that's important.
And also knowing the history. I mean, you hate to say it, but sometimes working with Mengel Mensker Bar, they've been with the school district long enough that if I were to leave tomorrow for some reason, the next business official coming in could get a hold of them and they could go through the whole history of stuff and help explain the history of the district to that person pretty much seamlessly.
Institutional recollection.
Yes.
Correct.
Tom Zuber's been around for a long time.
Yep. And Melissa Dwar has been here pretty frequently also. So she's got some good historical memory also. So she does, you know, and the same thing with Freed Maxick. I mean, I give Catherine Barrett a call and her team over there, and they're absolutely phenomenal with the internal audit. And, you know, they can pull up things historically and hash out about, oh, this hasn't been touched in years. You need to focus on this and that type thing. So if you remember, and I don't think anybody was around here, maybe Russ was my very first year, the improvements and things like that, that Catherine has worked with us on to limit and reduce. So as soon as we find out the risk assessment and that with the IT piece with 4 counties, then we're either going to go with that or pick a different one. And if that's the case, we'll have to have a meeting on that. But those are the type of things when you have the institutional memory, you know, if when you talk about the IT audit, Freed Maxick was involved in that the first go around too. So they know what we're talking about when, you know, we're trying to take a look at some of the problems historically or concerns we've had historically with that. So not that you can't switch, but like you said, that institutional memory sometimes is helpful. Was I able to answer questions, or did I cause more questions?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So the recommendation for the next Board of Education meeting on the 21st will be to have Mengel Mensker MMB do the external audit and Freed Maxick the internal and risk assessment.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was the other way around.
MMB is external and Freed Maxick is internal.
If we're looking at cost, then I want to be able to come up with why. So right now, If we're looking at solely the cost piece, okay, and this is what John's mentioning, okay, Freed Maxit would be cheaper. And Freed Maxit would be cheaper for the internal, but Mango Metzger Bar would be the next one. But if we're looking at cost, then I want to take a look at EFPR because they're cheaper also.
Now, what I'm saying is Freed Maxic is the external, and we chose MMB for the internal primarily because of the 93 score. Isn't that what we've been talking about?
It really depends what if you're going to go based on price.
No, I'm not. And Jeff, I'm not. Right now, I'm agreeing with what I thought the original concept was, that because MMB scored so well on the internal and RA, they were our guys, even though they were more expensive. And for the external audit, it was Freed Maxic, even though they were a little lower in score than MMB, but they were $8,000 lower in costs. That's what I thought we just did.
And that's where I guess I'm still having trouble too, because if this is a matrix, the design of the matrix is to evaluate which is the better to go with. 93 is a significant difference from the 85 compared to the 1 point difference on the external audit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where John's going, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the 1 point difference for the external audit, justify it based solely on cost, because the 1 point difference really isn't much of anything.
That's just,
The 90.
that's statistically relevant, the difference.
Yes,
I see what
I like that.
small.
What's that?
I see what you're saying because of the difference is so small. It's one, right?
Right. Compared to the 8% spread on the internal.
To me, if I may share, it really comes down to which company you want to do which one, right? Because there's really two. There's Freed Maxic and MMB, right? So in both of them, or one of them can't do both audits.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So we know it's between Freed Maxic and MMB. We're just trying to determine who's going to do what, the internal or external.
So,
Well, I mean, conceivably, not to keep muddying the water, but if the 1 point is insignificant, then EFPR should be in the mix because they're even cheaper than Freed Maxic for the internal.
That's what I was saying. If you're looking at cost, then
Yeah.
that's
But it's not just cost though. That's what we're saying. It's the whole matrix, right? So
right. So
I can't speak for John, but I don't know any of these companies. So
Mhm.
looking at which company I prefer to work with, I don't have a preference. I mean,
and that's what I think Russ was talking about. So you have your institutional history.
yes.
Mango Metzger Bar has done our external audit. Okay. Freed Maxit has been consistently our internal audit. Okay. So if we switch it up for the next 5 years, that's going, and then you're going to select again in 5 years. Okay. So then you want to take a look at, because they're so close in both categories, is that institutional history important?
And I think if you ask any of the district office people, they'll be, don't change my contacts. I know them. If I email them, they're going to email me back. If I pick up the phone, they'll tell me about their kids and give me the answer quickly.
Right. So that's the other part of the equation. So we have the cost. Okay. And we could go either way with that. Okay. I don't want to split the hairs. So if we want to do that. So the other part then that isn't on the matrix is the institutional history. So if the
And direct experience with the firms and so forth.
right.
All right. So do this one last time so I can
Yep.
rest myself here.
Sure.
External audit, we are going with
My recommendation, because I know you're going to ask me,
okay.
external audit, my recommendation would be Mango Metzger Bar.
Okay, and internal is Freed Maxic.
Correct.
And these are the firms that are doing the internal and the external right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Just because they've been so close, the historical piece is important, and that's, you know, not on there. If they were 20-point different and EFPR came in through there, then I would, you know, have to see what the difference is between that group and say Freed Maxic on an internal audit too. Just because knowing that history becomes important. If the audit committee or board of education is saying, oh, fiscally, here's our situation, what do we want to do? There's going to be more work involved. If you switch a basic financial audit company, which is the external audit. So let's just say next year when, if we were to switch companies and Freed Maxic did the audit and the Board of Education says, well, historically, how do we look historically back compared to previous years? There's going to be more work involved on their part to get through the history part to explain it up. Tom Zuber's office, Mengo Bar, would be able to say, well, here's the reports you've had from the previous years. Here's how it all comes in together.
Point made. Point made.
So,
All right, I'm good with this.
Yeah, me too.
okay. So external audit, Mengo Bar. Internal and risk assessment is Freed Maxic.
Correct. That's the way I have it.
Okay.
Okay.
I will have that. We'll type up some just brief discussion on here, and then I will include that on the consent agenda for the Board of Education.
Great. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Sorry for all the confusion, but hopefully we worked our way through it.
Okay.
All right, if you have any questions, let us know.
All right, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you,
Thanks,
Russ.
Thank you.
Hi, John Boy.
What was that? I didn't hear that.
Bye, Kyle.
I am thoroughly impressed with all the technology stuff you have behind you, Russ.
Yeah, and I've been cleaning it up too.
Wow, I'm just looking at that. I'm staring at that a couple times during the meeting going, how does he keep track of all that stuff? But I guess if you know what you're doing, you're all good at it and you know where it all works and how it all falls together. So that's good.
It keeps me off the